pulled into the driveway of that house, the sky was gray in a way that felt heavier than normal clouds. It wasn't storming. It wasn't even windy. The air just seemed thick, like something invisible was pressing down on everything. My wife smiled and said it was a blessing to find such a big home at that price. 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, a fenced yard for the kids. I forced myself to smile back, but the moment I stepped out of the car and looked at the dark windows, I felt like the house was looking back at me. I have spent most of my life dealing with the unseen world. I have entered trances. I have faced angry spirits. I have helped families who believed something was attached to them. I know when a place feels wrong, and this place felt like it was waiting. Inside, the house smelled clean, but old. Not the smell of dust, not mold, just stillness. The kind of stillness that comes from a place that hasn't heard laughter in a long time. The previous owners had left in a hurry, according to the realtor. No furniture, no explanation, just empty rooms and fresh paint covering walls that felt like they were hiding something underneath. The first few days were normal. Unpacking boxes, setting up beds. The kids ran up and down the stairs, excited about their new rooms. My wife cooked dinner, and the sound of pots and pans filled the kitchen. I told myself I had imagined that heavy feeling. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was being too sensitive. On the 4th night, I woke up at exactly 3:17 a.m. I didn't know the time until I looked at the clock, but I woke up suddenly, like someone had called my name. The room was dark, but I could see the outline of our door. I felt pressure in my ears, like when you change altitude too fast. Then I heard it. 3 soft knocks, slow, evenly spaced, coming from inside the wall behind our bed. I held my breath and waited. Nothing. I told myself it was pipes expanding, the house settling. I closed my eyes. The next night, 3:17 a.m., 3 knocks again. But a 3rd night, I was sitting up in bed before it happened, watching the clock, waiting. When it turned 3:17, the knocking came, louder this time. My wife grabbed my arm so tight her nails dug into my skin. She whispered, "That's not pipes." After that, things escalated. My daughter came to us one morning with dark circles under her eyes. She said a little boy had been standing in her doorway during the night. She thought it was her brother at first, but when she sat up, she realized it was someone else. He didn't say anything. He just stared at her. She said his eyes looked sad, like he was about to cry. My son started talking to someone when he played with his toys. At first, we thought it was imagination, but one afternoon I heard him clearly say, "No, you can't go outside. Daddy says we can't." When I asked who he was talking to, he pointed at the corner near the stairs and said, "The boy. He doesn't know where his mom is." That night, I prepared a ritual in the living room. I lit candles. I placed food and water as offerings. I called out respectfully, asking whatever was in the house to reveal itself peacefully. The air grew cold almost immediately, not gradually, suddenly. My breath became visible. The candle flames bent sideways as if something had moved past them. Then, from the hallway, I heard the sound of small footsteps running. Not heavy, not adult. Small, fast steps. My wife heard it too. The kids were in the living room with us. The footsteps ran from the hallway to the kitchen, then stopped. Silence. I stood up slowly and walked toward the kitchen. Every step felt like I was walking into deeper water. The temperature dropped more with each step. When I reached the kitchen doorway, I saw something move near the refrigerator. a shadow, but shaped like a child. It slipped around the corner and vanished. I did not feel anger from it. I felt confusion, sadness. We asked neighbors about the house. An elderly woman down the street hesitated before speaking. She told us that years ago a family lived there with a young son. One day, he disappeared. No signs of forced entry, no ransom, nothing. Police searched everywhere: the woods behind the neighborhood, the nearby creek, the attic, the basement. They never found him. The family moved away soon after. That night, the basement door slammed shut on its own. We were all upstairs when it happened. The sound was violent, like someone had kicked it closed with force. The house shook slightly. My son began crying immediately. He said the boy was downstairs and didn't want to be alone. I grabbed a flashlight and went to the basement. The air grew colder with each step down the stairs. The light flickered, even though the batteries were new. Halfway down, I heard soft crying. It sounded like it was coming from the far corner near the water heater. I reached the bottom step and froze. He was standing there, a small boy, maybe 7 years old, pale skin, dark hair hanging over his forehead. His clothes looked old-fashioned, like they were from another time. His eyes were large and glassy, filled with tears. He wasn't floating. He wasn't glowing. He looked almost real. He whispered, "I can't find my mom." The flashlight died instantly. Darkness swallowed the room. I ran upstairs in complete blackness, feeling something brush past my legs as I climbed. From that night forward, none of my rituals worked. Every time I tried to cleanse the house, something disrupted it. Candles blew out. Objects fell from shelves. Once, during a trance, I felt something yank me backward so hard I collapsed onto the floor. It was as if the boy was being held there by something stronger. My daughter woke up one morning with faint handprints on her arms, small enough to match a child's. My son started waking at exactly 3:17 a.m., screaming that the boy was standing over his bed, whispering, "Don't leave me." The worst night came 2 weeks later. We were sitting in the living room when every light in the house began flickering at once. The television turned on by itself, filling the room with static. From the basement, we heard pounding, rapid, desperate pounding on the door from the inside. My wife started crying. The kids covered their ears. Then the crying began, broken, terrified. I realized then that this spirit was not evil. It was trapped. Desperate, we called my wife's cousin, who had become deeply involved in church over the years. I had always believed my spiritual path was enough, but I was running out of answers. He arrived the next afternoon with nothing but a Bible and a calm expression. He walked slowly through every room, praying quietly. When he reached the basement door, he stopped. He closed his eyes and placed his hand on the wood. "There is darkness here that has no right to stay," he said. That night, we gathered in the living room. We held hands. He began praying out loud, calling on the name of Jesus with authority and confidence. As he prayed, the house reacted violently. The basement door slammed repeatedly. The walls thudded as if something was striking them from within. The temperature dropped so fast our breath turned white. My cousin did not stop. He prayed louder, declaring that God's power was greater than any darkness, greater than death, greater than whatever held that child captive. Suddenly, a scream tore through the house, not from upstairs, from the basement. It was the boy. But it wasn't a scream of anger. It was fear turning into release. The house shook once more. Then everything went still. A warmth spread through the room slowly, gently, like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. The cold vanished, the pressure in my ears disappeared, the air felt clean. I walked to the basement. The door stood open. The air was normal, no heaviness, no presence, just silence. That night, for the first time since moving in, we slept peacefully. In my dream, I saw the boy standing in light. Real light. Not dim, not shadowed, bright and warm. He smiled at me and said, "He found me." I understood he was not talking about himself finding his mother. He meant God found him. He was no longer lost, no longer trapped in confusion or fear. When he walked away, the darkness that once surrounded him did not follow. In the weeks that followed, our home transformed. The atmosphere felt different. Laughter returned. The children slept through the night. No knocking, no footsteps, no whispers at 3:17 a.m. I realized something that humbled me deeply. All my years of spiritual practice had prepared me to recognize the unseen, but I had never truly understood authority. That night, when my cousin prayed, it was not just words. It was faith placed in a power higher than any spirit, higher than death itself. The darkness did not leave because we fought it harder. It left because God commanded it to leave. We began attending church as a family. At first, I went quietly, observing, listening, but the more I learned, the more I understood what had happened in our home. God had not only freed that lost boy, He had protected my children. He had answered us when we were desperate. I no longer feel that heavy air when I step into my house. Instead, I feel peace, real peace, the kind that does not depend on circumstances, the kind that remains even when the night is quiet and still. Years have passed now. Sometimes I sit alone in the living room after everyone is asleep. I remember the knocking, the cold basement, the sad eyes of that lost child. But those memories no longer bring fear. They remind me that even in darkness, God sees what is hidden. He hears the cries of the lost. He has power over what we cannot control. And every time I turn off the lights and walk upstairs, I whisper a simple prayer of thanks. Because our home is no longer haunted. It is covered, and the boy who once wandered our halls is no longer lost, but finally at peace in the light that never fades.